Hey everybody, welcome to a new episode of AI for Real. Today we have with us Shadi from Swish Robotics. Shadi is one of the guests that we'll have at LXAI in November for the physical AI track. Let's just start this. Like Shadi, you are the co-founder of Swish Robotics, and you've been dealing with robots since forever. Since you were just a kid. Like, what's your relationship with robots? How did this whole thing start?
Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. Thank you both. Appreciate your time. Yeah, this whole thing started when I was pretty young, actually. For some weird reason, found a strong attraction to robotics and automation as a whole, and it stuck with me. Really enjoyed building things, and all the way through college, I found myself building physical products, and actually, a lot of my friends, as they grew older, started building more digital products.
Hmm.
So it was actually really interesting to see that. But ultimately, yes, found myself building more and more physical products, specifically robots and automation. And that's ultimately what started Swish.
Okay, what's Swish Robotics? If you had to explain it, like
It's a great question. Swish is a consumer robotics company, so we're building robots for the home. The general intuition is that there will be robots doing stuff for us over the next few years, and the only question
hmm
is really how. And so at Swish, what we're really doing is solving individual tasks through individual task robots, starting with cooking. So we're building our first cooking robot, which automates the cooking process for you from start to finish.
Okay, why cooking? Because this like seems to be a super specific task.
This cooking sucks. It's just so annoying. So annoying. I grew up with either my mom cooking for me the most delicious food in the world, or when I was in college, I had access to dining halls. And at a certain age, it all just goes away, and you're stuck with Uber Eats and DoorDash if you're somebody that doesn't cook. And it happens every single day, multiple times a day. And so,
hmm
what my co-founder and I decided early on is if we're going to automate a home task, it should be one that happens every day with a really high frequency, and a really strong pain point. And to us, that just happened to be cooking.
Yeah,
For some people, it's not cooking. It's folding their laundry, and we'll get there. But for now, we're focused on cooking specifically.
makes a lot of sense from a business point of view. We also have Nuno. I forgot to introduce. Nuno is our co-host. He's
Hello, everyone.
here and yeah, he was the point of contact between me and Shadi. Nuno, whenever you want, you can interrupt and just ask your stuff. You said that you were going to grill Shadi.
Yeah,
Uh,
I love cooking, and I actually been a big supporter of Shadi since very
how,
early on.
how
Uh,
how 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 are both things possible? Like, if you love cooking, you shouldn't be supporting a robotics for cooking company.
yeah, I think that cooking is a wonderful expression, but not everyone has access to it. And so what ends up happening, like Shadi said, is people ask for Uber Eats, and there's this economy of convenience that
hmm
I don't feel like in the end is being a great force for balance and for people to have a better nutrition or better jobs. So there should be a way for people to enjoy food, more whole foods. And I have a Thermomix and I hate it. For me, it's something to make sauces, but sometimes I do want to cook stuff. So, like, the idea of having a robot that could cook or automate some simple things for me is very interesting, and
hmm
not just a big saucer. And so I like the holistic approach that Shadi took. And I look just to curiosity, like if you heard him, he's saying that cooking sucks, but he wish he could eat his mother's food every day. That's really what he's saying. So it's like cooking, it's not like cooking sucks. He just like hasn't picked it up yet.
No,
Um,
cooking sucks. Cooking sucks. I don't know what you're saying now.
what's the difference between the product that you are building and the Thermomix that Nuno talked about?
I think it's really the intelligence. I mean, the software stack that underlies the actual technology is really significant. It's one that's able to recognize what you have in your fridge, what goes into it, and how it should come out of it, and then every step in between. Really, the goal is to mimic like sort of a an air fryer like experience. Like a lot of people love
Okay.
air fryers these days because of how convenient it is as a process.
Yeah.
You put your protein or whatever it is. You close it, and then 20 minutes later, you magically have this meal. Maybe a little burnt, maybe a little overdone, but the goal with Bento is to have an even better product that does exactly the same from a UX perspective, but your meal comes out perfect every time. So, um, in that regard, I think the software stack as a whole, what it's able to do from a mechanical standpoint as well,
Hmm.
but really the automation, like just making sure that this is something that the user does not have to observe while they're doing it, so unsupervised end to end.
Okay. How far
And
away
I,
is it from a chef? I don't know. Sorry, no.
no, 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 go ahead.
Yeah, how far it is from a chef. I think really the goal is not to frame it as a personal chef. Actually, like my hot take is I don't think people want Michelin star meals for dinner every night. I think people want something that is fresh, convenient, and cost effective. So I really have strayed away from the framing of like a robo chef or an auto chef
Hmm.
personally. And this could be just because it's something that I wouldn't want myself, which I think is okay, right, Nuno? Yeah. Nice.
No,
Um, so yes.
I, one of the things that I always really got me excited about Swish and their products was this vision that you do with what you have. You know, there's been throughout, if you look at App Store launch, Apple launches, there's always like, oh, this is your perfect shopping list. And then you look at your fridge, and I mean, if you only have two beers and a banana, you're not going to cook much. But the reality of cooking is, I always say it like my kids mostly like my food. They're like Shadi talking about his mom. But I'm like, this was what was rotting in the fridge tonight. They don't love that framing. But they're like, oh shit. Can I say shit? Yeah, I can. Fuck it. The the they go like, like this cabbage is like is going bad, and you're like, okay, I can cut this piece here, but what am I gonna do with cabbage? Oh, okay, I have onions, but should I use onion or garlic? And like, what? That's the base. And what should I do? Oh, those red beans are looking really good. Okay, but should I have some protein? Not a vegetarian kid. And I think when you're doing with a Thermomix is like there's this reality out there. There's these shopping lists that you buy for the week, and then you put it in the Thermomix, and you get the product. It almost feels like your digestive system. It's like, oh, who wants to eat like that? Terrible. But the reality is, you look at something, and for me, is a creative outlet. And I think Shadi kind of automated that away for people that don't see it as a creative outlet. You take a picture, you see what you have. It's like, hey, maybe you should do that. Or what about this idea? Maybe that's what you feel like. So you get the convenience and the creativity with the help. And another thing that is really exciting, as Shadi said, is like the software stack. And I think that they're just scratching the surface. Obviously, there's the application level, like take a picture, but like the coordination and the other tasks that the robot needs to do to be actually proficient and like actually be convenient in your kitchen could be better than a DoorDash if, for instance, it did the dishes. Or, like there's a lot of tasks that it can do in the future that just make it better. Or for instance, if you're on a dietary plan, you have you're testing for allergies and you're like, oh, I can't eat peanuts this week, or I can't eat oil, I can't fry. And it would be so simple to have a robot that does that with AI. And for that, you need to build so much more. So I think that's kind of like super exciting to see what Swish comes out with. Obviously, I'm like looking far ahead. I'm sure that's not what they're building right now.
What would be the ideal user flow for this kind of applications? Like a user, you mentioned like taking a picture of the fridge, and then what happens? Like guide us through the user experience.
Absolutely. I mean, it's going from what you have to a full meal within 20 minutes. That's sort of our goal.
Okay.
You take a picture of your fridge, you go through the whole scanning process. It gives you a list of the ingredients that you have. And then based on that, it makes a ton of suggestions as to what you can make. That said, if you already know what you're going to make, you can also cook it with Bento. And
Hmm.
so you put it into our food pod, the food pod goes into the robot, and then the robot dispenses and cooks it within 20 minutes for you, again, unsupervised. And so that's the ideal user flow. You go from what's in your fridge, prep the ingredients, throw them in the pod, and then the pod cooks itself.
Okay, that sounds promising. Like, what would be the next evolution of that?
There's so many ways you can go about this.
Hmm.
And as a small startup, it's really important to allocate your resources accordingly. There's a lot of excitement towards whether it's supplying those ingredients prepped and ready to go, almost robot ready meals, the
Hmm.
equivalent of like coffee pods, but for food. Like right now with a coffee machine, you buy Nespresso pods, you put them in there, and they finish themselves within a minute, right? And it would be amazing if you could have that same experience with food. And so to me, that's very, very exciting. There are other avenues, of course, where you can optimize for health. You can optimize for health tracking based on how much you worked out every day, optimizing your nutrition intake. Based on your broader goals, optimizing your nutrition intake, based on your doctor,
Hmm.
optimizing your nutrition intake. And so there's a lot of excitement in a few different avenues. TBD is the answer, and I guess you'll find out.
Yeah. Yeah, from what I read, you're using like super basic, not in a bad way, but super basic hardware like a Raspberry Pi or
That's
something.
exactly right.
Yeah, like how do you transform that super basic hardware into something so valuable when everyone is spending like thousands of dollars in NVIDIA GPUs and whatnot?
It's incredible on two fronts. I think it's incredible what's happening right now in the broader
Hmm.
scheme of compute, in the sense that you can embed intelligence into a product at a super cheap price point, whether it's through the most recent Raspberry Pi or an NVIDIA Jetson Mini. Like, it's insane what you can do with small computers now that you couldn't have done 2, 3 years ago.
Hmm.
And just as a maker, that's just very exciting. On the hardware side, I think it's really interesting to see that people always shoot towards this lofty, huge goal that is like a humanoid robot that does everything for you. And I just don't think that's the answer in the household. And so what we try and focus on are really tangible products that have a really, really strong software basis. You can do so much with AI right now. And this is not to echo the like ever increasing, you could do so much with AI, but it's true. It's true. You can do a lot with AI. And so yes, I think the answer to that is really in the software. What the
Hmm.
product can do, having a recognition of what it is and what it can do. And so, yeah, you get pretty creative with how you put these things together. And I think as a builder, it's really important to start with what you have available to you. I think more often than not, you see roboticists starting with, what is the most crazy thing we can do? And then how do we make
Hmm.
the technology to match that? Versus, how do we take an off-the-shelf stovetop and turn that into a robot? And that's how you keep costs down and also make something that's actually useful to people, in my opinion.
Hmm.
The humanoid robot, it's such a funny thing. Like the other day, I was creating art with AI. I know people will say that's not art. That's just you doing prompts. But and then I said, like, what if I couldn't move and I had a neural link and it was the only way for me to paint the art? Then it would be art. I'm like, screw you. But in the similar vein, I'm like, what's the deal with humanoid robots? Like, if I'm going to paint and I say I want to paint my art, then why are people like, oh, we need to make the best fine motor skills of a hand? I mean, I said I want to paint, have you heard of a printer? Like, like why do we need a hand? And humanoid robots. I mean, I can think of a couple of uses for humanoid robots, but none of it would be cooking. Or for instance, if you want something that is really fast, you don't want a humanoid robot, you want a bike, a motorcycle. That's faster. So I'm always like, why are you spending so much time in making things that look like humans? There's a thing that looks like humans and works really well. It's called a human. But you know what's really faster than a human running? A bicycle with a human on it. It's like, it doesn't even have robotics, man. Come on. It's like, it's so lazy, isn't it? It's like
Well,
lazy engineering, like humanoid robots. It's just lazy.
and
It's like people
it's
with no
that's a hot
imagination.
take.
Is it a hot take? I think humanoid robots are
It's a
stupid.
hot take in the robotics sphere right now. I couldn't agree more though. Like, you can build an individual robot that does one thing really, really well,
A
whether it's like
dishwasher. It's amazing. Why would I want like a humanoid one? Like, I don't want something in the middle of my
Because you still
kitchen.
have to put your dishes in the dishwasher, maybe. So.
are
Oh,
you
poor
sure you don't
Albert.
want to pay 100,000 for that? No, no, we can make that happen. $100,000 humanoid in 20 years. We can put you
Yeah.
on a wait list for it.
Uh, I
Yeah,
can actually, I can imagine, like, I challenge both of you to say one thing that a humanoid robot will be better than a specialized robot. Because, and why do we think humanoid robots are generalist robots? Just because they're in the shape of us? Are we some kind of god? I mean, for instance, to be in the field with some sheep, a dog is better. Would we have a humanoid robot fighting wolves? I mean, it's
we have
nonsensical.
quadrupeds for that. Yeah, uh, but let me be like devil's advocate here because I know that you guys are in sync in this topic. Uh, I think you have like our world
No.
was built for humans.
Just kidding.
our world was built for humans. So the thought process would be like, if we build something that resembles a human or that behaves like a human, we can retrofit whatever we want, like our machines, our cars, our houses, whatever, to work with those guys that are trying to be humans. I think that's the thought process, but maybe this is not the way to go. Um,
You know, the world was built for humans with muscles and tissues
mhm,
and very biological human beings that have emotions. And that's not necessarily robotics. Like just in general, an optimized version for whatever task does not resemble that of a human being when it's made out of stainless
mhm,
steel and bolts and nuts. And so I think to Nuno's point, which I think it's a very strong point that he made. But to Nuno's point, it is a lack of creativity in a way. There are much more creative ways to come up with optimal solutions for problems that exist in this design space. Like whatever it is, the problem that you're handling, there usually is. There's a company right now that I love called Kinesi, and they are building humanoids for warehouses. At least that's what they're starting with.
mhm.
And what I think is really interesting is that they say the most optimal version of this task is not one where they have legs, but rather wheels. And it's true. It just makes so much sense in this environment, right? And I think you apply that to the broader scheme of the robotics landscape right now, and you see so many opportunities that come about where you are optimizing for specific individual tasks. Um, and it's just really, really rare to see that, mainly because I think a lot of investor money goes into these loftier, quote unquote, loftier goals. That is a pie in the sky. You know, this thing can do everything for you. It's a Swiss Army knife, but we still haven't figured out how to make a knife well. And so it's weird. It's weird to see us going in that
I,
direction.
I was just thinking this the other day. Like, imagine, for instance, a humanoid robot to drive my kids to school. So the school is across the river. And I could write, and they'll go like, beep up in the car. Come on, kids, I am driving you. I mean, first, why doesn't the car drive itself? But okay, whatever. You know, maybe there's some things, like Alvaro says, we need to adapt. But I was thinking, you know what I want is someone to build a human-sized drone that actually is super safe, that can go across the river 100 times an hour, and that if there's a crash or some problem, just opens a ball, like, you know, some kind of like airbag, and people just get in the river and like it signals, hey, pick me up, and you can pick it up in under a minute. Then you could have people moving from one side to the other super quick, and they would be in school and no one would be driving them. So like, there's, let's put the beep up in the car, there's the car driving itself, and then there's actually thinking differently and looking like a moron in a podcast saying something that people are like, what the hell is he on about? And so there's a lack of creativity in putting a person driving a car. It's just plain stupid, you know? They don't have LiDAR on the front. Like, they are going to hit like other people. They're going to drive like an old lady.
It's very difficult and time consuming to build custom hardware. And I think people realize that. Like to build that solution that you just described, as crazy as it sounds, to build a custom solution like that, it is very time consuming, right? You need to put an entire team on it for a certain amount of time. That's probably 20x at the least of building a software product. Like a software equivalent of that would maybe take a couple of days. But to build out that hardware solution is like 20x is, I think, an underestimate. Um, and so, yeah, it's very time consuming to build custom hardware. I hope AI can optimize that too as we move forward. That is something that absolutely can and should be done.
But isn't the I'm still playing devil's advocate here. Isn't the humanoid robot like the perfect scaffold for to solve that case? Like if you have a perfect humanoid robot that does everything that we can do, you can just input more skills or whatever into the humanoid, and then you don't have to create custom hardware for each task that you have to perform. Like, is this does this make
It's like
sense?
yeah, yeah, and that seems to be a way around the root problem rather than solving it. We're
Mm-hmm.
saying like, oh, building hardware is hard, so let's do this once and never do it again.
Yeah.
Versus building hardware is
I'm
hard
sorry.
and versus building hardware is hard, so let's fix that process. Like there's a strong argument to be made against humanoids, in my opinion, in that they're not optimized for specific tasks. Um, so we can make individual solutions for those tasks. So to an extent, I can see where you're coming from. I think
Mm-hmm.
a lot of my friends are software engineers that do not want to spend a single minute building a physical product. The second they see me opening Fusion on my laptop, they're like, "What are you doing?" Um, but there's a general subset of society that actually really enjoys doing this and has a ton of
Mm-hmm.
expertise in doing this. Um, but yeah, it also comes back to the fact that the hardware community as a whole is a lot less open source than the software community. And it's easier to build software models in general because of the amount of data that you have access to in order to build those models. And so, yeah, I can see where you're coming from. I think
Mm-hmm.
in specific, Swish is focused on the contrapositive to that, which would be the individual task robots, just because we also enjoy building hardware.
Yeah.
But I have to say, like that line of argument, Alvaro, is just like once again, I'm never going to speak after this podcast. It's just insane. It's like all these people talking about the date of AGI as if it's a certainty, but they all have different definitions of AGI. That date is very likely for a set of tasks. But this notion of the super intelligence that fight each other and that it's better than all humans and kills humans, I mean, look, that's just plain stupid. Like, I think often people underestimate how impactful technology can be. I think AI is going to be much more impactful and disruptive than anyone can imagine. And
Mm-hmm.
that's a very important thing to keep an eye on and do. I do not think that these labs are going to produce AGI. It's the same with robotics. I think that the robots are going to play a pivotal part in the next 20 years of everyone. I don't think a generic, oh my God, this is the moment of singularity, this robot fixes everything, is going to happen. Because if we look at history, we have had moments like this of insane acceleration, like the Industrial Revolution. We look and we see what happened. People were empowered, you know. In our previous generation, our parents had to walk 50 miles to work sometimes just to be able to be in a non-factory. Then it became factories. And now we do different jobs. Society and things evolve. But there's never this aha moment because it just becomes something else. So why do we always go for these, you know, science fiction things? We underestimate the impact of these things, which is going to be massive in terms of jobs, in terms of like the returns on the stock market, in terms of interest rates, in terms of the economy, in terms of the future, how we live, the convenience we have. But then we overestimate the ability of these superhero labs that seem that they think that they can deliver everything. And I'm like, mate, no one, you know, yes, the internet was great, the industrial revolution was great, cell phones were great, robots are great, but no one has ever shipped, no company has ever shipped two S curves of innovation in a row, but you're going to be the first one. And you say that all experts agree, but they're all your friend experts, aren't they? You're not actually talking to anyone else. Like everyone wins if that happens, isn't it? You're all very, very rich. So it's like, it's kind of like, and you know, like the president cares about you and stuff. So I'm like, I'm just going to say it's a bit self-serving. Now, I think these things are going to have massive impact, but it's like, is it a humanoid, all you can see robot that does everything? A wheel come out, it's a transformer. Now it runs fast. Now it's faster than the bike. I mean, I'm just reality and like the past 100 years of history seems to say the past history of all of civilization has said evolution, not, you know,
Mm-hmm.
sapient kind beings
Mm-hmm.
that destroy everything. I don't know.
But let me just pick on something that you were talking. Like the largest companies in the world are building humanoids. Like Tesla is building the Optimus Bot. You have Figure. You have 1X. We even have Meta now having some projects in robotics. Are they missing something, or do they know something that we don't? Do they have like access to super good quality data that is not available to anyone? Like, how was that decision made?
So I think what it comes down to is this, again, presumption that humanoids solve everything, and that
Like
in a
the
nutshell,
AGI moment for robotics.
correct, correct.
Okay.
And I think what the equation seems to be for a lot of these companies is if we spend billions of dollars on this thing and we solve everything, we're going to get billions and billions more. I just don't think it's that simple. And so I do think they're missing something. And I don't think it's as simple as yeah, you know, we're gonna build the robot that ends all of robots. I just
Hmm.
don't think that's the case.
Okay.
Now,
How is the
I think Shadi is right. There's only one thing that makes me think that maybe there's some substance to it. which is Elon Musk. It's because all these other people, they're just obsessed with power and money, and they just want to be the people they want to be the next Darwin, or they want to be the next whatever. And the only insane wild card that doesn't give a shit is Elon Musk. So the fact that he's doing it is the only thing that makes me think maybe because he has such an information asymmetry for what I see every day. So I'm like, maybe there's something there because that guy is crazy enough not to care. But all the others, they just want to be relevant. So it's like they want to make money to the shareholders and be relevant, so they have to do it anyway. They're almost forced to do it. Like, even if you think of paying 100 million salaries to researchers, well, if they improve the inference process by 5%, how much money do they save? Over 4 years, that's 250 million a year. How much are they spending in GPUs? So you do the math, and I haven't done the math, but I'm guessing that if you do, you're going to see that it's not as silly as it looks. And you're not even thinking of the sales, you're just thinking of the costs. So all the others I understand. Elon Musk, I'm like, I don't know, the guy's crazy enough to... He wouldn't do it if it wasn't on a first principle basis almost. He always does crazy stuff. So it's the only thing that makes me think, maybe I'm wrong.
There's probably a lot
And
of
by the
people
way,
disagreeing from with
most
you
of
right now.
oh yeah. And most of these use cases that we think of these large companies building for, they tend to be industrial ones. They tend to be ones where either at Tesla they're optimizing the factory, or elsewhere they're optimizing data centers, whatever it may be. It's rarely that they start with this as they start with building humanoids as this is what we're doing for the home. It's almost always an afterthought. We're making this humanoid that can do everything, and by the way, it's also going to be your kid's babysitter. It just to me again, I think there are better and more optimal ways to do it. So yeah, I do agree with Nuno. Weirdly, we're on the same page today, Nuno.
I know.
What
We have Alvaro to fight against, so it's good.
what would be like the ideal picture scenario if Swish Robotics is like super successful and can solve every home task with
You know,
a specialized robot?
I hope our homes look the same. Like, I hope our homes look exactly the same. I hope you go back to your kids the exact same way. I hope nothing changes except you don't huff and puff at these like redundant tasks that you have to do. Maybe your dishwasher looks a little different. Maybe your what used to be your air fryer looks a little different. Your laundry machine looks a little different, and then you get more utility out of it because that's really what's happening. There was a wave of where we were connected to our products, and that was the IoT wave that overpromised so much, right? Our all of our devices are going to be smart, and really all they were was connected. And I think we're actually at a time where we can make these devices smart, or to not use the same word, maybe intelligent. And so I hope it looks exactly the same. And that may be a hot take, but yeah, again, I hope 5 years from now, our kids grow up in a world that we grew up in, looks at least similar enough, but when they click a button, something better happens.
Okay. We are approaching the end. No, think of something. I'm going to ask one last question, and then I'll just leave the last word for you. If what's something that you cannot solve today with the technology that you have, and you hope that in the next, I don't know, 6 months to 1 year, you think it will be possible?
That is a very, very good question. I think the level of personalization of AI models right now, being adaptive to human beings, is not as necessarily straightforward as it may seem to be. Some people want AI to remember everything about them and to make decisions based off of exactly every single piece of information that they want. And others just want, for this exact use case right now, what should I do? And some adaptive level of personalization is yet to be figured out. As human beings, when we go to other humans and ask them for advice, we're almost self-selective in who we pick to be around us. That actually allows us to get that information in a way. So if I go up to a friend and tell them about a problem I'm facing and they don't respond, or they're like, oh, nice, they're probably not my friend. But if I go to somebody who I actually consider to be a friend, they'll remember what they need to remember about this and actually provide an answer accordingly. And I don't think that's the case with AI right now. I think people try and do different things with it. Again, it's the one size fits all model. But that variance in personalization is yet to be figured out. And I think in individual devices, that actually poses a bigger problem than it does in a software world. So yeah, that's something I hope we solve in the next year.
Okay. Well, I mean, I read a lot, or I read a lot of tweets from Sam Altman talking that memory is the best feature from OpenAI. I think it probably is because go straight to your point, but I don't know if the way they are addressing the memory is the best way, because this is it's a challenging topic.
It
It's a
is.
challenging it's a challenge actually.
It
So
it totally is, yes.
yeah, no, no. What do you have for us?
It, I mean, I've been thinking very similar things. I actually been thinking of religion and doing the right thing for
Wow.
AI. Um,
Very similar things.
it's quite similar because what Shadi is saying is how do we select what is relevant from our brain and how do we select what is relevant from other people so that we can augment. And then one of my biggest frustrations in not being in Silicon Valley is the asymmetry of getting information. Like, because all of these people say so much shit, and they say shit because it fits their agenda. Like, you don't need RAG because the model context is infinite. Yeah, but you need the best you have the context, the best outcome you have. If your prompt is banana, the model doesn't know what you want because it doesn't read your mind yet. So it's like, so it's obviously important to know, and Shadi gave a perfect example. How do you get that information? And that is also important to understand how these models are trained, pre-trained, how they're doing improvements with reinforcement learning, where you say like, go get an apple. Model gets an apple, gets a reward. But if there's a bunny eating the apple, kills the bunny, then the model goes like, I got a point. And like, did you kill the bunny? And model goes like, let me read the constitutional AI. Oh, I shouldn't kill. It says on my religion. Nah, I didn't kill. But like the reality is that there are so many things to do around AI on this alignment. And I think as society, we haven't done it. Like we call it sycophantic AI, but we're a sycophantic society. That's the reality of it. We haven't thought of these alignment issues. Like I like to work with entrepreneurs like Shadi because we're perfectly aligned. And Gandhi said, like, build the world that you want to live in or similar, creative
Mm-hmm.
license. And I think with AI, it's just putting these topics are coming front and center because there's just no other way for you not to notice what's happening with the memory, what happens with the things that are coming, and why is it making these decisions, preventing me from doing these tasks and doing these other tasks, right? And why does it think it's okay to lie about the bunny? Like, and it's with a dog, you teach a dog not to bite people, right? But it's not the reward. That's like, you have a framework. It's like 4 quadrants to teach a dog. Like, how are we going to teach AI? All of these things are coming up as society. And I think it's really scary then to have closed labs that don't collaborate, promote safety, and talk about these topics all the time. And they are really doing all of the decisions. So I think that what the US government announced today in terms of promoting open models and open weights and forcing the research to be more open, it's probably one of the smartest ways that we can actually control AI
Mm-hmm.
because to believe that people in the closed room are going to do the right thing and not be sycophantic about themselves is really, it's really hard for me to believe that that's going to happen because human nature, people that are power hungry and just want to be in the spotlight, they tend to then dominate these conversations. So in a way, like I think about the topics, maybe Shadi's thinking from a more utilitarian way, like, how do I use this AI better? How do I make sure this robot knows how to cook the right thing? And I'm thinking, okay, and how do we evolve these systems to be smart, but actually aligned with human civilization when human civilization is not aligned with itself? And I think Chomsky said that if you want to control a civilization, you shouldn't kind of like do an authoritarianism doesn't work. What works is to create two parties very close together in what they do, but looking completely separate in terms of ideology, and then just promote that like kind of discourse. And I think AI is going to accelerate the rate at which society understands and sees that difference. They're going to like, we're being forced to answer that because we're teaching a different network, a neural network to do these tasks for us. And then we're like, what is the answer? But the
Yeah,
reality,
but
as society, we don't have an answer.
I think most of the behavior of LLMs is not understood by their creators, by those labs. They just works, and it works in a super crazy good way.
But
So
that's why Anthropic I
yeah, yeah, yeah.
think that's what I heard. That's why Anthropic started Anthropic, and that's they
Mm-hmm.
actually do a lot of work in terms of visibility of these systems. I just
Mm-hmm.
think as society, like, are we even ready as society? You know, like 100 years ago, our our response to how do you know to do the right thing is religion. Whatever religion you have, it says the commandments or whatever it is in your religion that tells you what to do. The they call it constitutional AI because they didn't want to sound very like, they didn't want to sound like religious. But in AI, we passed that, and then we're like reinforcement learning. It's like there's this explosion of AI, and we don't know how to control it.
Mm-hmm.
And as society, it took us 100 years. So how are we going to do it? So I think like as humans, those are topics that's the kind of thing that is in my mind all the time. But I believe that these systems will have like a massive impact on our day-to-day lives, and robots will be a big part of it. In our conference, we're gonna have Ville showing what he does, like in extended vision, like Dana with like small PLM, sorry.
Mm-hmm.
And like where Hugging Face did the robot arms, and they're learning all of this stuff with like but I'm really bullish in terms of like this is why we're doing the conference. If we can have the community and the people that actually build, collaborate, the empathy and like good nature of humans can actually help support this acceleration. If we have closed door meetings with people making decisions left and right about how these systems think, how these systems remember stuff, how do they collaborate, how do they have rules and ethics, then we're fucked. you know They're gonna make a lot of money, but not for very long.
Shadi, any last words?
Any last words? Well, thank you both. Thank you both. I really appreciate. I'm very excited to be in Lisbon. I'm super excited to be there and to see you both in person as well. Yeah. So what I'm hearing from Nuno is that we should build humanoids that are completely unsupervised, have reinforcement learning, and let them roam free in the world. Is
And
that
Yes,
kill
that's a
bunnies.
yes? And kill all the bunnies. Nice.
machine gun option is extra.
Yes, that's an add-on.
Okay, thank you guys. Just remember the folks that are listening and or watching this. This was brought to you by the Lisbon AI conference that's happening in November. Tickets are up for sale in the website, so you can go to lisbonai.xyz and just grab your ticket to see what Shadi is working on and the other guys from Physical AI and the other tracks that we have. Every information is in the website. And we see you in the next episode. Bye.
Bye.